McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. It's Kevin McCullough. Always pleased to have you here. And anytime you want to know anything about the show, who we've had on, catch the podcast, join the social media, it's thatkevinshow.com. Thought it'd be pretty simple. Thatkevinshow.com. You know what else is simple? Oilfacts.com. We've been telling you about it for the past several weeks, and the purpose of telling you about it, well, you've seen played out on your TV screen. You've had two political conventions roll into your life and try to tell you one thing or another about energy, and the candidates that had those tickets trying to make their claims and where they're at. And it's one of the reasons why I feel so personally obligated to make sure that you have the information at your fingertips, and oilfacts.com has done exactly that. Ed Kovalik is the CEO of Prairie Operating Group. They are the driving force behind oilfacts.com, and it's been a fun little adventure, Ed, to have you on the show and to see the thousands of people that have responded that are becoming Oilfacts insiders and saying, hey, I want to know more about these facts, because it seems to me that we're not told this stuff anywhere else.
No, and that's exactly why we wanted to sponsor oilfacts.com, Kevin, because there's been really very little information shared with the public about energy. And the information that has been shared has been a lot of misinformation. And so somebody really had to tell the truth and educate the public in an apolitical way about the realities of energy.
You're being very kind in the way you present it, though, and I want to point this out. The opponents to fossil fuels are not kind. They are, in fact, pretty cutthroat, pretty ruthless. These facts are known to them in terms of how cutting off fossil fuels would impact, for instance, third world populations and make life infinitely more miserable for us if we were to adopt Kamala Harris's Green New Deal. People forget she was a co-sponsor in the Senate of that exact legislation. They play very cutthroat, and the consequences are very high for what they are wanting to force us to do.
I think when it comes to energy, Kevin, there are really two teams. There's one team represented by Kamala Harris, which really is a proponent of using a lot less of everything, including energy, a lot less availability of energy, a lot more dependence on the grid, which has, all sorts of problems related to that model with respect to just abundance and availability of energy. Let's not forget, you need energy for everything we do as a society. Energy is the basic input. So I think you have one team that wants to limit access to energy, and you have another team represented by folks like myself, certainly Trump's policy, common sense people that are really on team human flourishing. We want humanity to prosper. We want folks in the third world to have the same availability to abundant, inexpensive energy, just like we have had in terms of building our economy on the back of that. So I'm proud to be on the side of human flourishing.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. I was making remarks related to this because I'm far more political than you are, as it related to Kamala's desire to price control groceries last week. Because I was thinking to myself, well, does she even understand the reason why groceries went up? Like, she thinks like that there's just some big grocery syndicate that's out there, working over the little man and saying we're going to put the boot on your neck. When in reality, if you cut off access to energy, which irrigates, produces, transport, and refrigerates all of those vital necessity groceries that you have, if you put the boot on the neck of energy, you're driving up prices way more with those policies than anything that a grocer who's maybe making 2% in profit on a really good year is ever doing to the consumer. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's a really comic position to take, the idea that grocers are price gouging. Last time I checked, the 2% margin isn't exactly price gouging, which, by the way, gas stations make about the same margin in selling fuel, less than that, about 1%. And so certainly if you extrapolate the position that Kamala Harris has, which is banning fracking in the United States, that would immediately lead to a pretty steep decline in production of oil and gas in the United States, and oil and gas accounts for 85% of all of our energy. And so anyone that's taken Econ 101 in college knows that, less supply means higher prices. And, I think in the case of energy, we'd see really dramatically higher prices at the pump, levels that we probably have never seen, probably in the $10 to $20 a gallon range, because most of the oil and gas produced in the United States is produced with shale drilling and fracking. And that production declines very quickly. When you drill a shale well using fracking, you produce most of the reserves in that well in the first couple of years. And so, if you're not constantly drilling, you're going to be constantly declining.
And that's what their goal is. But on the other side of that, we have more abundance here than any country on earth, and domestic production of our own energy should be something that's prioritized. This is Kevin saying this. I want to see an administration come in that doesn't say, "Oh, okay, maybe." Like, I want them to be enthusiastic. I want them to get after it, because we have lost 3.5 years of development on that whole front. Let me ask you about this. I've heard you in some of the media that you've been doing the last few weeks talk a lot about AI farms and the coming energy electrical drain that those are going to pull. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but anything I touch on my phone now has an AI option, like my phone book, my Facebook, my Instagram, my Google, anything that I tap says, "Oh, try our AI." Why does using that use up so much more energy, and what is it about that is so dangerous to our current energy production?
Well, the computing power required for any kind of data center is really tremendous, and AI data centers really continue that theme and use ever more power. And so, in this age of AIification of everything that you're referencing, we're going to see an increase in electricity demand over the next 6 years, equivalent to what we saw over the prior 20 years.
Wow.
And so most of that demand is, has to be fulfilled by fossil fuels. And so the idea that you can have one and not the other, that we can electrify everything and not power that with fossil fuels, is kind of like driving a truck off a cliff and praying you're going to land smoothly.
Wow, that's a stark visual image there. Let me ask you this. Well, just as an example of what you were saying, in Paris just a few weeks ago, they actually were bringing some of the heat into the indoor pool events because the AI banks that are in Paris throw off a lot of heat because of the amount of electricity that they use. And I guess they were actually able to capture some of that and use for energy to do some of the warming for the pools that they needed. So it's very, this whole AI technology economy is going to be a different reality for all of us that, are used to the kind of brick and mortar type of approach. But fossil fuels, as you noted on a couple of your appearances this week, they haven't diminished at all. They're still the majority use energy product. We're talking with Ed Kovalik, coming right back after this break. Don't go away.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.